Well, welcome to the last section of the teacher work sample, the appendix. And you've done all the hard work now, and here you simply show some of the samples of the things that you did and the segregation of the data. So you first start out by listing all your references that you might have used to collect data to plan your lessons, if you got one from Teachers Pay Teachers, or anything that you might have used, a textbook, lesson plan sites, and then almost always you list the KSDE website where you got your data for your school. So we don't want you to be accused of plagiarizing anything, so you want to list those there on the references. Anything that assisted you in your teaching, you just give it appropriately. I'm not real big on following an APA style or whatever style you want to put it on. Just be consistent so that we know, if we wanted to, how to find that material. You'll have 3 appendixes, and in A you will include different charts or graphs about your school or your district, or any classroom contextual data that you might want to display. And in that very first section, section 1, it kind of tells you a little bit about what you should put in Appendix A. But it's usually demographic data of your school, how many students are on free and reduced lunches, your ethnic breakdown, how they did on certain test scores and the like. So display those there so we get a picture of what your school or your district looks like. In section B, you're going to put 2 detailed lesson plans there in the teacher work sample that follow a lesson plan format. And then in C, you're put all your different assessment instruments in there, and also your desegregation of data. So let's look at those more in detail. In Appendix A, most of the time you can simply slide the graphs over to your appendix or to your page that come from the KSDE or any of your State Department websites that display it in graphs, and that kind of makes it look kind of cool if you can do that. And then if you want to do one, if you're going to have 2 subgroups, you might look at your own classroom ethnicity pie graph, or however you want to display any of that contextual data about your classroom. In Appendix B, you'll include 2 lesson plans, and they should be full developed lesson plans. And as we talk about in the lesson planning chapter, it should be detailed enough that a teacher could follow that. That you start with your objectives, the state standard it's connected to, the equipment or materials you're going to need, how you're going to teach it. And I always like, for as you find out, some time estimates, then how you're going to modify it or accommodate any needed students, and then how you're going to assess it. We're talking a lot about the Hunter model. If you want to put that instructional input in the Hunter model, from ASET to objective instructional input, modeling, guided practice, independent practice, and closure, you could do that too, following that format. In Appendix C, you will put all your instruments that you used, your pre and post test, and since they're probably going to be the same, I'd just not put both of them, just go pre and post test and show the questions you used, and then any formative assessments that you did. And finally conclude with your data analysis, usually in graph form. And here you have your basically your pre-test and post-test scores, and then any subgroup scores that you decide to measure. And you can also include your formative assessment scores. You can desegregate those by your subgroups too if you want to get really detailed. The graphs can come in any form you want. Different graphing instruments do it in different ways. Usually Excel will display them in a simple format, and you can choose the X and Y axis and the like. So and if you don't know how to do that, if you just Google spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet graphing, it'll show you exactly what steps to follow to do those kind of things. But the basic one that you should have are your pre and post tests by your subgroups. Let's see if you made a difference, and maybe did one subgroup do better than another. That makes for interesting discussions. Again, you could even analyze them by objective. If you had, in this case, 5 objectives, which ones were met, pre-test, post-test, and again, there's all kinds of ways you can display your data. So be creative. In essence, in these final overview, remember that you're going to follow the template that's given you. You answer the questions. Always have that rubric beside you so that you can say, well, I included this, I included that, because that's what I'll use to grade your final submission. Nowhere in there should you use names. You can even make up the school if you want to, but if you're noticing a number of examples, schools are still mentioned, but we don't want any individual student names used in any way. So hope you enjoy the process. I think it's a great way to think, and after doing it once, I think as you start to plan lessons in the future, you start to think about each of these elements and kind of include them into the development of your lessons. I'll see you around. Thank you.